Hi, welcome back. Today is day 2 of my 5 Days of Christmas video series with Marna from the Dolls Rescued channel. Yesterday I crocheted this cute Christmas hat, but today Marna and I are both making something festive for Blythe using 2 knitting needles. I'm not a very confident knitter myself, so please don't expect a terribly detailed tutorial today, but I'll do my best. I have sewn these sock jumpers before, and I did try to knit this jumper here, which kind of worked out in the end. So I'm going to try to knit a Blythe-sized jumper to match yesterday's hat. I have a plan of the shapes I need to knit and the rough sizes they need to be. 2 body pieces and 2 sleeves, each with ribbed hems. And I'll use decreases to make them slope in towards the neck. So apart from the 4mm knitting needles, I'll need scissors, the same red yarn as yesterday to add decoration, a large wool needle, and this deep green acrylic yarn for knitting with. I only realised a few months ago that I'd been casting on wrong for years, so here's how I've relearned how to do it. It starts with a slip knot on one needle, just like crochet, held on the left. The second needle pokes through, and with the yarn held on a finger, loop it over that second needle. The same needle slides that yarn round to the front and pulls it off to the right, where the tip of the first needle can catch under the front of the loop and slide through, staying to the front of the second needle. Then repeat these steps again. Loop the yarn over the second hook and so on. Each loop created on the first needle is a stitch, and I'm checking against a ruler until they seem to be the right length. I end up casting on 16 stitches for the body. Now I'll be knitting a ribbed effect for the hem. I do this by knitting one stitch and purling the next, alternating each time. The knit stitch starts like the casting on stitch, except once that loop is pulled to the front, it's then slid off the left needle, staying on the right one. To switch to a purl stitch, we take the yarn strand over to the front. Now the right needle comes through the next loop, but stays on top of the left needle. The yarn is looped over like this, so it hangs down in front, and the right needle catches that loop and pushes it towards the back. Then the stitch is slid off the left hook, staying on the right. Move the yarn to the back again and repeat for the next knit stitch. Yarn in back for knit, yarn in front for purl. When you've finished one row, pass the left needle to your right hand and the right needle to your left, and repeat exactly the same steps for the next row. Your 16th stitch should be a purl, and the first should be a knit, and this way they will make vertical stripes of the alternating stitches. Repeat this until you have 4 rows of ribbing. Now for the main body, I will be alternating rows of knit and purl. I start with a whole row of knit stitches. I swap hands, then do a row of purl stitches. I continue knitting till my length reaches about 5 centimetres. This alternating of rows makes a clear front and back to the knit fabric. The knit side is smooth and the purl side is rough and loopy. Making sure I'm about to do a knit stitch row, I begin my decreases. As I understand it, we knit 2 stitches together into one to do this. My right needle pushes through the first 2 loops of the row, but otherwise the stitch continues as normal. I only decrease the first and last pairs of stitches on this row. The middle is all normal stitches. Now I complete a normal row of purl stitches. There should be 14 stitches total now. For the next knit row again, I decrease the first and last pairs of stitches, taking the total to 12. Repeat the alternating purl and knit rows with decreases until you have just 8 stitches. Remember your row of purl stitches, and then we can cast off this body piece. To cast off, first knit 2 stitches as normal. Using the tip of the left needle, pull the stitch on the right side of the right needle over the top of the one on the left and all the way off the needle. Knit 1 more stitch onto the right needle and repeat the looping and sliding off again. Continue this until you have 1 loop left on your right needle. I then loosen my loop and snip the excess yarn. Try to leave a good few inches for sewing with later. I then pull the tail through the loop to secure it. It's hard to see since it wants to curl up, but this is the first body piece for our jumper. Now I'll repeat exactly the same steps for a second body piece and both sleeves. For the sleeves, I worked out that I needed to cast on 12 stitches, make the length 6 centimeters before starting the decreases, and then do the same as the body, decreasing until I had 6 stitches left. Here's all my jumper pieces, all curled up still. Now, before I join the sections together, I'll try to add decoration to the front using a duplicate stitch. This stitch mimics and covers up the V shapes on the knit side, making it look like you knitted your design into the fabric. I'll do this with the red yarn. Okay, it is a little hard to see, but we come up from the back at the bottom point of a V shape. It has to be a downward pointing V. I leave a decent tail behind. Now we need to pass the needle under the 2 legs of the V above the one we want to cover up. Don't pull the yarn too tightly, then bring the needle back down through the bottom of the V you started at. Isn't that great? Okay, let's do another to the side. It looks really neat on the back, and I bet you could do some elaborate patterns like this. I've decided to do a simple red heart. There, and I just knot together my strands at the back. Now to join the pieces up, I'm simply going to hand stitch them, joining the angled sides together, just like in my plan sketch. I will use the long tails left behind when I cast off each piece. I'm using a ladder stitch, just trying to keep them even. I knot and snip off the ends once I finish each seam. Once the pieces are joined like this, I fold the jumper in half across the sleeves, and I'll now sew up the sides. I'll use both yarn tails and tie them together where they meet in the middle. Here we go. I used a whip stitch for this. There certainly is a neater way to do this, and I recommend looking up specific tutorials for normal size knitting if you want to learn it. This works for me though, and I can finally turn it right side out and see my finished jumper. Ah, it's a proper little jumper. I'm so happy with it. I'll definitely try more jumpers again now that I feel better about it. As I said, I'm not a great knitter, but this is my best effort yet. It should just slide up the body of a Blythe doll, as I left the neck opening quite wide, and it sure won't fit over that big head. Oh yes, it fits so well. My Blythe here is on an original body, but I do think the sleeve length would fit a jointed A-zone body very well too. Oh, it looks so cozy! She could even fit a cute vest on underneath. Well, time to go for today. Let's go get a hot drink. Thanks so much for watching. What did you think? Let us know in the comments and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye!